There's a curious thing about memory. It rarely asks our permission. It barges in, uninvited, bringing with it all the scenes we thought we'd locked away. Some are sweet and warm, others sting. And then there are those memories so deeply etched into us, we believe they have shaped who we are. They whisper, "You cannot let go of this, not yet, not ever." There's a popular idea that if we truly forgive someone, we will also forget what they've done, as if memory and mercy are somehow inseparable. But this notion is not only false, it is unfair. It places an impossible burden on the wounded, asking them to perform a kind of emotional amnesia, as if healing requires pretending. But forgiveness was never meant to erase history. In truth, it is something far more courageous. Forgetting is a function of time or trauma. It may happen naturally, or it may never happen at all. Our minds are not vaults we can empty at will. Some memories stay with us not because we cherish them, but because they mark us. Because they mattered. Because they hurt. The deeper the wound, the longer the echo. And that's not a failure. That's humanity. Forgiveness, on the other hand, is a decision. It is not about the memory. It is about the heart's posture toward the memory. You can look directly at the wrong done to you, name it, grieve it, even still feel it, and choose not to let it poison you any longer. You do not have to wait for the day you wake up and forget in order to begin the process of forgiving. That day may never come, but forgiveness can still happen now. When we confuse forgiveness with forgetting, we confuse freedom with denial. Denial is brittle. It demands silence and smiles while something festers underneath. But true forgiveness begins with honesty. It does not say it didn't matter. It says it mattered deeply, and I still choose to let go of the debt. That is a stronger mercy than pretending the injury never happened. In fact, the only forgiveness that truly transforms us is the one that acknowledges the full weight of the offense and then lets it go anyway. It helps to remember that forgetting is not always a virtue. We do not forget the great moments of love or sacrifice. We don't forget kindness shown to us in dark times. We remember these things because they shaped us for the better. In the same way, the wounds we carry can shape us too, but not only in bitterness. They can deepen our compassion, broaden our mercy, expand our understanding of what it means to be human. And all of that can happen without pretending the wound was never there. To forgive without forgetting is not weakness, it is wisdom. It means we are aware, we have learned, we may now approach others with more caution or place firmer boundaries. That is not being unforgiving, that is being responsible. You can forgive someone from the depths of your soul and still recognize that they should not have the same access to your life as before. You are not required to hand out blind trust to prove your heart is clean. So no, you may not forget. The memory may still come unbidden and sharp, but that memory does not have to control you. You can hold it in your hands without being owned by it. You can look at it without hate. And slowly, strangely, the memory may begin to soften. Not because it disappeared, but because you are no longer fighting it. You've stopped asking it to leave. You've accepted its place and reclaimed your power over it. This is forgiveness, not an erasure, but a transformation, not a forgetting, but a choosing to walk forward even with memory in tow, because love has made peace with pain, and peace, in the end, is what you were after all along. There is a strange irony in holding on to unforgiveness. We often believe it gives us power over the one who hurt us, power to protect ourselves, power to keep the pain alive so it cannot be repeated. But in reality, the longer we hold on to it, the more power it gains over us. Like a heavy chain we refuse to lay down, it weighs on our steps, slows our joy, and eventually shapes our identity. The one who wronged us may move on, unaware or unbothered, while we remain trapped in a prison of our own. This is the tragedy of unforgiveness. It doesn't preserve justice, it preserves pain. When someone hurts us, there's a natural instinct to cling tightly to the memory. We relive it, analyze it, and nurse the wound as though tending it gives us some measure of control. We think, if I let go, then they get away with it. Then it means it didn't matter. And so we build our case over and over in the courtroom of our mind. We call witnesses. We replay the evidence. We rehearse our pain until it becomes part of the script we read from daily, but no court is held, no judgment is rendered, just us, circling the same scene endlessly, unable to step out of the loop. We think we're guarding the pain when in truth it is guarding us, keeping us from freedom, from peace, from love. The hurt becomes a wall, and soon enough we forget what life felt like outside of it. There is also a subtle shift that happens within us. Bitterness, when left unchecked, begins to harden. It does not stay confined to the original wound. It spreads. We start to view the world through the lens of betrayal. We expect to be hurt again. We close off possibilities. Our trust in others withers. Even our view of ourselves becomes entangled with our pain. Either we become victims in our own story, or we grow cynical, sharp, and cold to keep ourselves safe. And the person who wronged us, they are no longer just a person. They become a symbol of injustice, of failure. They live rent-free in our minds, showing up at the most inconvenient moments. We carry them with us into new relationships, new opportunities, even into our moments of rest. The pain doesn't stay in the past, it follows us. Forgiveness is the key that opens the gate of this prison. It doesn't mean the wrong never happened. It doesn't even mean the feelings disappear overnight. What it means is that we've chosen to stop carrying the burden. We've decided we don't want to be tethered to this pain anymore. We are tired of being defined by what was done to us. The truth is, unforgiveness changes nothing about the past. No matter how long we hold it, it will not rewrite the story, but it can absolutely ruin the present. It steals from today in the name of yesterday. It tightens its grip not only on our memories, but on our future, what we could become if we allowed healing to take root. Letting go is not weakness, it is strength. To forgive is not to surrender to the offender, it is to reclaim ourselves. It is to say, you no longer have power here, not in my thoughts, not in my heart, not in my future. The moment we let go, even if our hands still tremble, is the moment we step out into light. We may still carry the scar, but we are no longer bound by the wound. And that perhaps is the truest kind of justice. Not that they pay for what they did, but that we are no longer paying for it ourselves. There is a deep misunderstanding that sits quietly beneath many of our struggles with forgiveness. We fear that if we forgive someone, we are somehow saying their actions were acceptable, that by releasing them, we are excusing them. But forgiveness is not about letting someone off the hook. It is about letting yourself off the hook. The one that keeps you tied to pain, anger, and the desire for repayment is not to deny the seriousness of what was done. On the contrary, it is only when we fully acknowledge the wrong that forgiveness can be meaningful. If something didn't matter, there would be no need to forgive it. The very act of forgiveness declares that an offense occurred. Something was taken, something was broken, something was violated. It is precisely because the injury was real that forgiveness is necessary. But forgiveness is not about pretending. It is not sweeping things under the rug or telling ourselves that it didn't hurt when it did. True forgiveness requires honesty. Brutal, painful honesty. It looks the wrong in the face and says, yes, this happened. Yes, it wounded me. Yes, it changed me. And still, I release you. That release does not mean approval. It does not mean trust is restored. It does not mean reconciliation will follow. What it means is that you are choosing not to carry the weight of resentment any longer. You are laying down your right to get even. You are turning away from revenge, not because the person deserves it, but because you deserve peace. Forgiveness is not earned. If it were, it would not be forgiveness. It would be a transaction, a deal. But forgiveness isn't a trade. It is a gift. And the truth about gifts is that they reflect the heart of the giver, not the worthiness of the recipient. This is why forgiveness can be so hard. It feels unfair. And in a way it is. It is unfair to us because we are the ones who were hurt and now we are asked to take the higher road. But it is also the only road that leads away from bitterness, the only road that leads to healing. To excuse someone is to say they didn't mean it, or they didn't know better, or they couldn't help it. But you can forgive someone even when they meant it, even when they knew exactly what they were doing, even when they did not apologize, or even worse, when they did but continued to act in the same way. Forgiveness doesn't depend on them. It depends on you. It is your decision to stop drinking the poison of bitterness, hoping it will harm someone else. It is your decision to put down the gavel, to walk out of the courtroom in your mind, to say, I am done being consumed by this. That decision might not come easily, and it might need to be repeated daily, but each time you choose it, you take one step closer to freedom. And make no mistake, this is not weakness. It takes far more strength to forgive than to hate. Anyone can hold a grudge, anyone can feed the fire of anger, but to release someone, truly release them, requires courage of the highest order. It is the work of the soul. It is not loud or showy, but it is powerful because in releasing the other person, you release yourself. You step out of the shadow of what they did and into the light of what you are becoming. You stop being defined by the wrong and you begin to be shaped by grace. Not because they earned it, but because you chose it. There is something deeply embedded in the human heart that longs for justice. We want the scales to be balanced. We want wrongs to be made right. We want those who caused pain to feel it themselves so they might understand, even if only for a moment, what they've done. This desire isn't evil. In fact, it points to something noble in us, the echo of a world where justice truly reigns. But the weight of judgment is not meant to be carried by us. We are not the judge, no matter how convincing the anger may feel. When we've been hurt, especially by those we trusted or loved, it feels natural to take up the role of judge and jury. We rehearse the details of what happened, we measure their guilt, we decide what they deserve, and sometimes we begin to imagine how we might deliver it. This may not be in violent or outward ways. It may be subtle, cold silence, withdrawn affection, pointed remarks, the slow withdrawal of kindness. We think, they should feel what I felt. It seems only fair. But here's the quiet truth that begins to emerge when we look honestly at our own hearts. The longer we stand in judgment over another, the more damage we do to ourselves. That desire to punish, to see the other suffer, begins to shape us into something smaller, tighter, more bitter. Slowly, without realizing it, we become prisoners of the very judgment we hope to wield against someone else. Judgment is a heavy robe. It wraps tightly around the shoulders, stiff and immovable, and the longer we wear it, the harder it is to recognize ourselves underneath. We were not built for this weight. Our hearts are not wide enough, our wisdom not deep enough, our vision not clear enough to see the whole picture of another's soul. We do not know their full story. We do not see the shadows that shaped them, the wounds that warped them, or the regrets they may carry in silence. That doesn't excuse the wrong, but it does remind us of our limits. Letting go of judgment is not the same as letting go of justice. Justice matters, but true justice is not fueled by hatred or revenge. It is rooted in truth and love, and it operates far beyond what we can orchestrate. Sometimes justice comes in ways we do not see. Sometimes it comes slowly over years, and sometimes it comes not at all, at least not in this life. That's a hard truth, but it's also a freeing one, because it means we do not have to hold every wrong, every injustice, every offense in our own hands. We can entrust them to someone far more capable. To forgive is, in part, to step down from the bench, to acknowledge that we cannot carry both justice and healing at the same time. If we insist on staying in charge of punishment, we will never be free. But if we lay it down, if we say, I will not be the judge of this, then something shifts. The heart begins to breathe again. You don't have to approve of what they did. You don't have to forget it. You don't even have to feel okay, but you can release them from your judgment. You can stop trying to make them feel the pain you felt. You can say quietly and sincerely, this is no longer mine to carry. And in that moment, you are not saying they were right. You are simply saying you want to be free. One of the most common misconceptions about forgiveness is the idea that it means things must return to the way they were, that if you truly forgive someone, you must let them back into your life, trust them again, speak to them as if nothing happened. But this is not only untrue, it is unwise. Forgiveness and boundaries are not enemies, they are in fact companions. Forgiveness is what frees your heart. Boundaries are what protect it. To forgive someone does not mean you owe them access. It does not require that you ignore patterns of harm, overlook broken trust, or pretend everything is fine. Forgiveness is an inward release. Boundaries are the outward response. Both can exist together. Both are acts of strength. Some people will say, if you really forgave me, you wouldn't still be distant, or you wouldn't still be cautious, but that is a misunderstanding or perhaps a manipulation. Forgiveness is not the same as reconciliation. Reconciliation is a two-way street, built on repentance, accountability, and time. Forgiveness is one person's decision to let go of the debt, with or without the other person's participation. It doesn't require apology. It doesn't require change. But boundaries, they are built on what is wise. They are shaped by what is safe. It is possible and often necessary to forgive someone fully and still decide they should not have the same place in your life. You can release the anger, the bitterness, the desire to punish, and still choose to keep your distance. In fact, sometimes the most loving thing you can do for both yourself and the other person is to create space. Space to heal, space to grow, space to stop enabling cycles that never change. Forgiveness is about setting yourself free from the grip of resentment. It is about choosing peace over punishment. But peace does not mean pretending. You may forgive the one who lied and still not trust them with your secrets again. You may forgive the one who betrayed you and still not hand them the keys to your heart. Trust is not a right that comes with forgiveness. It is a privilege that is earned over time through consistent change and humility. There is no virtue in leaving yourself open to repeated harm. Forgiveness is not a call to self-sacrifice. It does not ask you to be a doormat, to be naive, or to minimize the damage done. Forgiveness says, I release you from my judgment, but boundaries say, I honor myself enough not to walk back into danger. Sometimes the boundary is small, a clear conversation, a line drawn in one specific area. Other times it is more drastic, cutting off contact, stepping away from a toxic relationship, or rebuilding your life without that person in it. These choices are not signs of unforgiveness. They are signs of clarity, of growth, of healing. You are allowed to guard your peace even while holding no hatred in your heart. There may even be moments when the most honest form of forgiveness comes after the boundary is made. When you are finally out of the fog of confusion, able to see things for what they truly were, you find the space to forgive, not to reconcile, but to release, not to go back, but to move forward. Forgiveness is the letting go. Boundaries are the keeping out. Both serve a holy purpose, and together they help you walk in freedom, free from bitterness, free from guilt, and free to live in truth without fear repeating old wounds. You can forgive and still protect yourself. In fact, sometimes that is the truest form of love. For others, yes, but also for yourself. There is a quiet hope most of us carry when we've been deeply hurt. The hope that one day the person who caused the pain will see what they did, feel remorse, and offer a heartfelt apology. We imagine what they might say, how they might acknowledge the weight of what happened. And somehow that apology feels like a kind of door we're waiting to walk through, as if we cannot fully heal until they unlock it. But life does not always hand us that apology. Some people never say sorry, some never see what they did, and some may see it and still choose silence. If your freedom depends on their apology, you may spend your whole life waiting. The beauty of forgiveness, The radical, almost scandalous truth is that it doesn't require the other person's participation. It is not a contract between two parties. It is a choice you make within your own soul to release yourself from the chains of bitterness and pain. You do not need them to see. You do not need them to regret. You do not need them to fix what they broke. You can choose peace without permission. This is not easy. Everything in us wants the story to resolve, to have its arc completed with justice and clarity. We want the person who wounded us to carry some of what we've carried. We want them to sit with the weight we've felt. And when they don't, it feels unjust. It feels unfinished. But here is where forgiveness becomes a kind of miracle. It allows us to step into healing, even while the story is still incomplete. There is something sacred about saying, even if you never acknowledge it, I will not stay bound to this. It is not a denial of the hurt. It is not weakness. It is strength. Quiet, dignified strength. It is saying, you may have taken something from me, but you will not take all of me. Not my joy, not my hope, not my future. Forgiveness does not wait for the other to act. It is the act of taking your power back. Some people will never say sorry because they are unaware, others because they are ashamed, and still others because they do not believe they did anything wrong. None of these reasons are in your control, and yet many carry the pain like a wound that can only be stitched by the very hand that caused it. But that's not how healing works. It starts from within. It starts with you saying, I will no longer let this moment in time have control over who I become. Forgiveness does not mean that what they did was right. It does not mean it didn't matter. It simply means you are choosing not to let it define you anymore. You are refusing to rehearse the pain day after day, year after year, waiting for someone else to undo it. You are opening your hands and saying, I let it go. Not because you deserve it, but because I deserve to be free. And freedom, once chosen, begins to seep into every part of your life. It may not come all at once. It may arrive slowly, like the morning light after a long night, but it comes. With every act of release, your heart grows lighter. The past loses its grip. The wound begins to heal, not because the one who caused it has changed, but because you have. You don't have to wait for them to say the words you long to hear. You can begin today. You can choose to be free now. Because freedom, unlike apology, is not something that comes from them. It is something you give yourself.